Crickellectuals. Welcome to another episode, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the relationship between the Pakistan Cricket Board, specifically Ramiz Raja, and the press, the media. If you're new here, we're Crickellectuals Podcast, where we talk about everything related to Pakistan cricket. You can listen to us on all major podcasting platforms and watch our video content on the Crickellectuals YouTube channel. So let's get into the topic of this episode, which is the media versus the PCB. And I'll start by saying, in my view, never in the history of the Pakistan Cricket Board have we seen such a contentious relationship between the Pakistani Cricket Board and the press. And when I talk about the press, who am I talking about? I'm referring to what we now call the legacy press that the Pakistan Cricket Board invites to all of their press conferences. These are the guys who get to be in the room when Ramiz Raja is talking and giving his briefing, or when Mohammadrizwan, the chief selector, is talking and giving his briefing. These are the journalists that show up. They are from major newspapers or TV networks who get to ask questions at the end of their intro spiels whenever they do those conferences. The relationship between the legacy media and the Pakistan Cricket Board has been sour actually ever since Ramiz Raja was appointed as chairman of PCB. And one of the reasons is that at the very beginning, there wasn't necessarily a warm welcome from the media. There were many people who were saying on the surface, welcome, it's great to have a cricketer on the board as the head of the Pakistani Cricket Board, but really couched in those praises was what strings did you pull to get this position? Because there were, from the very beginning, people were raising questions about how Ramiz Raja was chosen, how it appeared to be just a direct appointment from the prime minister at the time, which is Imran Khan, and everybody knows Imran Khan and Ramiz Raja had a relationship from the past. They won the World Cup together, they were on the same team, and they've gone, they go way back. They know each other from a long time. So a lot of people were kind of suggesting, and when I say people, again, I'm talking about the media, the legacy media, the journalists, the well-known journalists who the PCB has had a historic relationship with, who always get an invitation to all of the key events. Now, these people were raising questions like what kind of a democratic process was followed for the appointment, and therefore from the get-go there was this contentious relationship between Ramiz Raja and the press. Besides that, there was a little bit of a honeymoon period where when Ramiz Raja at the very beginning of his term had to deal with the New Zealand withdrawal and the England withdrawal from Pakistan based on some security concerns, some bogus security concerns that those countries had shared. Ramiz Raja had to deal with a lot of that, and he had to clean that mess up, and he did it pretty well. Everybody agreed that the way that Ramiz Raja and company advocated for Pakistan and spoke out against the injustice that was done and the harm that was done to Pakistan cricket and the possibility of having international cricket in Pakistan was really huge, and it was very unfair. So Ramiz Raja really did the best he could do, really. There wasn't much you could do. All the countries had boycotted already. These were bigger countries. It was difficult to really take any major action being Pakistan, but the best that could have been, I think Ramiz Raja did achieve that. A protest was launched. Long story short, most of the press did not really criticize that, how Ramiz Raja and company dealt with that situation. And people also recognize that it was a bit of an unfair test of Ramiz Raja's leadership, given that all of this happened within the first week of the job. He didn't even put together a team yet, and he had to deal with this. After that, things started to really become sour because, then there was the issue of the pitches, and there was a lot of criticism from the media about the pitches, and there were questions being raised about how much money is being spent on this and that, or whether this is a good idea. And a lot of people were, in these conferences or the media events that the PCB was holding, they would push back and kind of talk about, he said, she said kind of a thing that the media people often do, like, oh, this ex-cricketer gave this statement about your choice or about your decision of getting the drop in pitches. What do you think about that? What do you think about he said? Or what do you think about she said? So that kind of stuff, is cheap, it's dirty, but the media kept doing that. And Ramiz Raja was defensive in those moments. He was new on the job as well. And, he responded sternly a lot of times. And then he started having this reputation of, Ramiz Raja being a one-man show because of his responses to people. When he made a decision, he stood by it and he stuck by it. And he refused to accept or entertain any contrasting views to his own. And that also continued to damage the relationship between prominent reporters or news channels and Ramiz Raja. And after all of that, when Australia did arrive for their series at the beginning of 2022, the pitches were terrible, and there was a lot of criticism launched at Ramiz Raja, and rightfully so. We did an episode on that too. That given that Ramiz has built his name and his sort of his vision has been around this, developing the pitches and improving the conditions of the Pakistani cricket grounds, it didn't look good that the first big series we have hosting Australia, who did come, and they got these dead tracks. That didn't produce any really entertaining cricket at the time. So you can see that every month, every couple of months, every series, regardless of how good things are going, there was a lot of criticism from the media, and Ramiz Raja's response, his interaction with the media was a bit confrontational. Fast forward to just a few weeks ago when Ramiz Raja did a couple of these press conferences where the media was invited, and he was talking about the Argo sponsorship and how they were going to be partners with PCB and pay for the best 100 and the facilities and whatnot. And during this time, a reporter asked a question, and it's a question that kind of gets at the heart of this relationship. So let's give that a listen from the Pakistan Cricket Board YouTube channel. So here's what happened. I'm starting with the midway of the reporter's question and then Ramiz Raja's response to it. So here we go.
प्लेयर्स को मीडिया से इस तरीके से छुपाया गया जैसे हम शायद उनके सबसे बड़े दुश्मन हैं।
मैं आपको बताऊं क्यों। आप देखें तो सवाल सुन लें। नहीं आपका सवाल यहीं पे ख़त्म हो जाता है। देखें पॉइंट कहने का ये है कि अगर आप मोहम्मद वसीम को ये कहेंगे जी ये लैपटॉप लेके आ जाते हैं और इनको समझ है नहीं है, तो वो मतलब मेरा कि जी इसने हम देखें जजमेंटल नहीं हो सकते हैं।
Alright, so I'll pause it there, but I think it gives you an idea of how certain questions are received by the chairman, and now he responds. He chooses to respond sometimes. So for our audience who may not have followed the Urdu version of it, basically the reporter was asking that, you've been sheltering players from us. Players are not allowed to interact with the media anymore, even though at the beginning, before you became a chairman or when you were becoming a chairman, you were saying, the media is the right hand of the Pakistan Cricket Board, and it's a two-way street. We both give one another. We both have to support. The board has to support the media has to support the board, and it's kind of like a partnership that way. But now we don't even get to talk to the players anymore. The only people that that come on, that make appearances or that interact with the media are either the chairman himself once a month or once every couple of months, or we see Mohammad Wasim here and there. And Ramiz Raja's response was that basically he cut him off. He didn't even let him finish the question, and basically was saying, let me just stop you there. I know what this question is. Your question is finished. Let me just tell you why it is the way it is. And the reason why it is the way it is because of the criticism you offer. And he gave the example of Mohammad Wasim. And Mohammad Wasim, the chief selector, used to come on to these media conferences with his laptop and a projector screen, and he used to project, player by player, what's the composition of the team and why each player was chosen. And he would show the players and he would show their stats, how many matches they've played, and he would go over them. Like, he did that a couple of times, and apparently I thought that was really impressive, and I thought that was refreshing because it was also educational. It was informational to see the data being used to identify key players, strong players that are going to make up the team. So I thought that was great, but apparently a lot of these legacy media people viewed that as maybe showing off, or what Ramiz was saying is that maybe the media was talking about how Mohammad Wasim doesn't know what he's doing, so in order to cover his lack of knowledge or expertise, he comes with a slide deck, and he has to cheat off the slide deck to kind of read off what he has to say. Now that we've established clearly that there is an issue, there is a problem, there is a negative relationship between the Pakistani Cricket Board, coming from the chairman himself, and the media, I want to share a little bit of my position on this, and it's food for thought for everybody. And let us know what you think in the comments, whether you're on YouTube watching. Let us know what you think on our Facebook page. Feel free to share or start a conversation there as well about this. But PCB chairman's response does not seem appropriate. Now, the media is the media. People from the media do this to everyone who is a public personality, around the world. This is not a Pakistan-specific phenomenon, even though I constantly hear from the Pakistani athletes, actors, actresses, people who are celebrities, there's a constant complaint about the media. There's a constant complaint that, they're just trying to get a headline, that they pull out all kinds of dirt, true and untrue, just to, make a buck. And they spread falsehoods and, fake news, quote unquote. And that's all they do. And that's all they want. They just want to create controversy so they get headlines, they get their name, attached to a news story, blah, blah. And that is probably somewhat true. But that's also probably somewhat true, again, everywhere. So the response to this seems to be odd to me and unprofessional. I'll give you an example from my experience here in the United States. When we go to the grocery store, we see these magazines right next to, the cash registers when we go to pay. And oftentimes, the collection of magazines there is just full of what you could call fake news or nonsense, like blatant nonsense. Straight up rumors about big name celebrities on the front pages of these magazines. All right. Now, maybe they're getting sued for spreading falsehoods. Sometimes it's just completely just absurd things, that you would read the headline on the cover and it's not true. But no one here is, nonstop complaining about that. They know, and I don't think it's just the case in the United States, and I think many people in Pakistan treat media this way too. I just don't think the cricket team is doing it. But basically, the proper way to treat that is to ignore it and only respond to questions that you can respond to with respect and some sort of decorum. PCB sheltering the players, what's that doing? That's not solving the problem. It's not going to solve any negative headlines like, are you getting what you want? You're upset about. It sounds to me like the Pakistan Cricket Board and the players are upset. So Ramiz Raja, in the same interview, which is, again, available on the Pakistani Cricket Board YouTube channel, that's where I listened to it, Ramiz Raja was saying that, hey, the players don't want to talk to you. He told this to the reporter who asked that question. He said, the players don't want to talk to you, so now what do you want us to do? And why don't they want to talk to you is because you guys spread negativity. Basically, this is his thesis, that you spread, media by and large is spreading negativity or fake news or negative news around the Pakistani cricket team and the Pakistani Cricket Board, and therefore nobody wants to talk to you. Well, that's hardly a viable solution because you're sitting there doing a press conference, so you clearly need them. And you've invited them, and they come there to ask you questions, and a couple of them ask some asinine questions, excuse my language. They ask some terrible question or some loaded question or some conspiracy-related question, or they want to bring up something from the past that is unrelated to what's happening right now. There are so many ways to answer those questions. You can say, I'd rather not talk about that. Please ask me about X, Y, Z. You can literally explicitly tell the reporter that that's not a question you want to answer, but you will answer this question, or you will answer a question about such and such topic. It's that simple, but they're getting their feelings hurt. And I think this is a terrible example that Ramiz Raja is setting. And once again, I haven't said this in this video, but in almost every video, I have to say, because I'm also often given a critical perspective on this, I have to often remind myself and the viewers and the listeners that I am a pro Ramiz Raja sort of a person. I support Ramiz Raja as a chairman. I love what he's doing as a chairman. I appreciate it, and I think he should finish his term. I'm not against him in any way. I'm just offering some critical feedback and some food for thought because I think this is not good for Pakistan cricket. And I do feel that some of these things need to change, especially in regards to interaction with the media. Our players, as some of you might imagine, and can probably recall from various different, end of match ceremonies or press conferences, a lot of our players don't have either the confidence or the communication skills to be able to handle questions or have a conversation in a thoughtful way on camera. Now, we can either use that as kind of an excuse to hide them, or we could blame it on the press for asking tough questions or negative questions and hide them and shelter the players even more so they never develop those skills. Or we can use all of this as a learning opportunity and model for them. People like Ramiz Raja, people who are in the board and outside the board, who are former cricketers and have experience dealing with media, they should be modeling how to answer these questions. I'm not even a celebrity and I know how to answer these questions. Or I could at least give you some tips how to answer these questions. I already gave you one. You could say you don't want to answer the question, or you could say that's not the topic of this press conference. Let's stay on topic. Let's talk about this XYZ topic. That's what this press conference is all about. Let's please stay focused on that. That's an easy strategy, but I'm sure people get paid by the PCB to work with the media can offer better training than me on how to handle media. And I just feel like some of these softer skills that are outside of the actual skill of playing the cricket are often left to the back burner. And our players are being hurt by that. They're being hurt because they're not developing those skills, the communication skills in particular. The whole world has to watch them get on camera and say less than ideal things. To be frank, our cricketers hardly ever say anything thoughtful, profound on camera. Never. A lot of other players from around the world, you can see they're at a different level in terms of their communication skills. And some of it might have to do with education. Sure, let's be honest. But now that the PCB has taken on these players, what are we doing? Instead of providing them the education, giving them the confidence, giving them more opportunities to talk to the media, let them make mistakes. It's okay. We could clean it up later. Right? You have communications teams. We have the chairman himself. Let the more experienced people clean up any mistake that a player might make. They might say something stupid, let's say, right? That's the worst that can happen. You're not going to kick them out of the team over that. You'll just use that as a learning opportunity. But no, instead, we're actually drawing out the battlefields. We're saying, no, we don't want to talk to you. We, the players, don't want to talk to you because you guys ask tough questions, you guys ask mean questions, or you guys ask, fake news questions, or you spread rumors. Things like, oh, why is Ramiz Raja still the chairman? Is he going to lose his spot? Yeah, sure, that's an unfair question. That's an annoying question for Ramiz Raja to receive. And it is annoying that many reporters keep on harping on that. But at the same time, you could see why that's happening. The political situation in Pakistan, and this is a political appointment. Given the context, it makes sense that people are asking that question over and over again. I actually thought Ramiz answered that particular question really well in this press conference that I'm referring to here. With regards to everything else, I don't support the way it's been handled. I think the media has to be taken more seriously. It has to be given a bit more respect. I think people should be able to ask tough questions. I appreciate that the journalists in Pakistan have come a long way to where they're not necessarily afraid of authority. They can ask a tough question like, hey, why did you sit out Hassan Ali now when, before you were saying we're going to support him, he's a match winner, and all of a sudden for this Asia Cup, Hassan Ali has been dropped. So we're no longer supporting him? That's a good question. Yeah, let's answer that. That's a good question. You don't get angry at that question. So reporters should be asking the tough questions. Their job is to get us informed, the everyday people, the fans. At Crickellectuals, we have a mission to spread positivity around Pakistan cricket, and that's what we try to do, and that doesn't mean that we're not going to be honest about certain things. We're just going to frame things in a respectful manner. So all criticism that we offer, we try to frame it in a respectful and a growth-oriented manner. We're trying to make growth. We're trying to do good for Pakistan cricket, and if we're a voice in that, and we have some ideas we could share, we should be allowed to share those ideas, and we should be able to ask tough questions. So I wanted to rant about that a little bit. Let us know what you think about the relationship between Pakistan Cricket Board and the press. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And until next time, it's your host Jay, signing out.